Okay, hello everybody. I hope you're enjoying your Friday and you're in the mood for some biology and interaction and behavior by animals. So, like I told you um, earlier, or the first lesson, we're going to tackle these last two dots on my first slide of learning goals for this chapter, like recognizing learned and innate behavior. I hope you know what these two behaviors are because you're listening to me when I tell you something. But I know that's utopia, so I will tell you again today. And then we're going to discuss some of these behaviors that are learned and innate behaviors. So learned and innate behavior are more like capture terms where all of these other behaviors like aggression, flight, defense, fight, classical conditioning, where they are situated in. And we need all of these things in order to make an ethogram next week. Okay, here we go. So this is where my last slide I discussed earlier or in the first lesson, so I will recapture it very fast. We have learned behavior and innate behavior. Learned behavior is your nurture behavior. It's behavior that occurs only by experience or practice because someone or the environment or someone else makes the environment in this way that you have to learn something like classical conditioning, like a dog who can give a high five. It's not that a dog is born by the skills to give a high five. He doesn't need that in the wild or in nature. In spite of the opposite of learned behavior is innate behavior. It's genetically hardwired, and you can perform it mostly by instincts and without prior experience. Learned behavior, and it's called nature. These are the examples. Learned behavior, most of the time, is more flexible. So um, you can more think about how you will act or how you react on some responses. Like innate behavior is most of the time it's more like a reflex. You just do it because that's the nature in your body that tells you to act on something, but it's not that flexible to adapt on a certain situation. Now we're going to look at some nice examples of these two behaviors. The first is aggression, and I put aggression together with fight and flight and defense. Aggression is when an animal or an organism feel threats or feels attacked by something, and it needs to go resolve that, or it needs to tackle these attacks by because there is a dispute over resources like territory, or there is less food and I have to be aggressive to get this food. Some of these aggression behavior will be mobilized to get some defense or for territorial behavior. So defense, you have to respond to a threat. You really go in defense to something else. And a territorial behavior is what you see here with the foxes. The foxes, they have their own territorium, but if someone else enters this territory, they need methods to protect its own territory, and most of the time this territorial behavior acts on aggression. So that's what you see here. This fox is in dispute over his territory and wants to defend it. Defense is not always aggression. Therefore, I put here a beautiful picture of the pufferfish. The pufferfish is a very small fish. It's not that thick all the time, but when it feels threatened, it puffs itself to a kind of ball-shaped fish, and that's a defense mechanism. Why does it do that? Because it appears bigger. When the pufferfish puffs itself, it's a difficult sentence. If the pufferfish puffs itself to a ball-shaped fish, then it appears bigger, and other smaller animals will think twice if they will attack the pufferfish. Another defense mechanism, for instance, is that some goats, I think I told it earlier, that some goats, not ghosts, but goats, are stop moving when when they feel threats, and they just lay down on the ground like they are dead, because other animals, most of the time predators, will not hunt something that's dead, and they will just go on and search for another prey. If you Google that, not now because now you want to listen to me, but when I'm done with this course, you can Google it, and I think you will find some goats who just fall on the ground when someone screams at them. Then you have fight and flight. I think you know that. Flight is like when you feel threatened and you go away, you run away. And fight is the opposite reaction, like I feel threatened and I'm everything in my body, it's a kind of instinct, will be prepared to fight. So all of these behaviors we see on this slide, aggression, fight, flight, defense, territorial behavior, it's all innate behavior. These are behaviors that are genetically nature in the organism. It's kind of reflex. So all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 examples are innate behavior. Okay, next one. Okay, first I will explain what we'll see here in the picture. So, what you see in the picture is a nest of a specific bird. I've lost its name for a moment, doesn't care that much, but it's a nest, and the nest is very a special, has a very special shape. It's not in a tree, it's on the ground. And in surrounding this nest, there is a circle of blue objects. Blue objects that the bird found and brought to his nest to make it more pretty for the other, for the female, female bird. All of the nests of these bird species looks the same. Well, sometimes they're more beautiful, or there are more blue objects or more shiny blue objects, or the nest itself is a little bit bigger. But the bird tries to attract a female bird in order to show that he's capable to make a very nice nest for the eggs. So this is an example of reproductive behavior. So it refers to the orderly sequence of behavioral events that are associated with reproduction, like courtship, I will explain that further later on, copulation, nest building, that's what I showed you here, and parental behavior. So when we're talking about reproductive behavior, I know you only thought about the sexual part of it, but it's more than that. It goes further. It's like everything the two parents do, or one of the parents do, to make sure there is some offspring and the offspring will last more than a day. It's reproductive behavior. I will give you an example. When two penguins mate, penguins are very loyal species, and they're just awesome. But that's not the issue here. But when they mate, they lay an egg. They lay one egg. So they need to take care of this one egg because that's the offspring. In order to protect the egg, one of the two, we just say for now the mother, stays behind and makes sure that the egg is between her legs and don't get or and it can't make contact with the ice because otherwise it will be too cold and the little penguin in the egg will not hatch. So it stays behind and starves itself. Meanwhile, the father is going to the sea and he dies for months. He eats and he will come back weeks or months later and takes the egg from the mother, and it goes very slowly and very sophisticated, and then the mom can go off and can eat and the father will start starving itself. So this kind of behavior is a very special type of behavior. It also counts as reproductive behavior because it's behavior to make sure the offspring will last and can hatch and there will be no problem with it. So I told you courtship behavior or courtship displays. I want to go further on that. It's a set of display behavior in which an animal, usually the male, like the nest building here, attempts to attract a male. So this nest is not only nest building, but is also courtship displays. I want to show you that I can make the biggest and the most bluish nest there is, so you'll be attracted to me and not to the other bird from the same species. There are many of these things. Sometimes this is a very visual example of courtship display, but sometimes certain birds, water birds, make kind of dance together, and only when they do it together without and being very symmetrical and doing the same thing, then they know you are the one I will mate with. That's by movement. For instance, that's an example of movement. There is also an example of sound, like a signal, an auditory signal that some animals use to attract the female. Like I can sing the most beautiful song and the female will be attracted to that. So there are many different kinds of courtship displays. When I am done with my PowerPoint, and not now because I know you're eager to see all of these examples and search for some examples for yourself, and you get time for this after my discourse, you can click on these two links in the PowerPoint. When you look on documents, there is my PowerPoint, and you see some more explanations, some more examples of courtship displays. So if you don't know what to do, you can look for some examples on the internet because there are some very beautiful examples of courtship displays. Okay. Oh, these two behaviors are also are also examples of innate behavior. So reproductive behavior and courtship display is something that's born with the organism is born with. Okay, the next thing we're going to discuss is some learned behavior. So one of the examples is classical conditioning. There is another one too, like operant conditioning. So you have to know the whole term. It's classical conditioning. What is classical conditioning? In terms to describe that, it's behavior learned by connecting a neutral stimulus with a positive one. So I will change the environment in a way that there is a neutral stimulus, and I want the organism to react on this neutral stimulus, a stimulus where it doesn't react on, or there's no reaction from itself, and I want it to react on it in a positive way. Like one behavioral scientist used to do, it's Pavlov. Pavlov got a dog, and we call this experiment the dog of Pavlov. It's a very well-known experience. So before the conditioning, Pavlov had a dog. I always told you, and he had a stimulus, an unconditioned stimulus, a stimulus where the response of the dog will be nature, so innate behavior. When I show good food to the dog, the dog will have reflexes to eat the food. That's innate behavior. It's born with this behavior. And there is the same dog, so this dog is the same dog and that dog, and I've got a kind of bell or a ringtone or something like that. And when dog hears the bell, he does nothing because there is no innate behavior to react on that ringing bell. So you've got, before the condition, you've got a neutral stimulus where the dog is not enabled to react on. You have a unconditioned stimulus where the dog wants to react on because it's genetically programmed. During the conditioning, Pavlov made his dog eat or gave his dog food and then ring the bell. He rang the bell. So with every time the dog had to eat, he rang. Not Pavlov rang, but the bell. And then after conditioning, this will be repeated many times, and then the dog will get conditioned. So he learns to get hungry, and when you're hungry, you're making saliva. So he gets hungry when he just heard the bell. So if Pavlov now rang the bell without any food, you will see that the dog will get excited and get hungry and make more saliva. So there is not now the neutral stimulus is the conditioned stimulus. And it's conditioned by using an unconditioned stimulus like the food. Another example of this is, for instance, when you hear the bell, you stand up, sometimes just without thinking, but you're not born with the ability to stand up and go to your classroom when you hear a bell ring, for instance. But there are many other ways. The most things humans learn, or dogs learn, or cats learn, is by classical conditioning. So this is learned behavior. And you have to, for instance, recognize it when I give you an example, but you have to be able to explain this experiment by Pavlov. I will write it down for you. Pavlov is written like this. Pav. I try to do my best here. Love. It's a Russian guy. Okay, further on then. And I think you can get excited. And I know some of you will, because this is the last slide I will discuss. And it's about mimicry. Mimicry is not a learned behavior, it's innate behavior. It's more like a born, or it's morphological born with. Like morphological is how you're built, your anatomy. And it's the skill or the action to, I need to put on my laser, I see. It's the skill or the action to imitate someone or something else. And most of the time you can relate it with the defense mechanism or the defense behavior I early explained. So I will show you, or I will make sure you know what I mean by these 3 examples. And here again, when you Google it, mimicry, you will find some very special and very beautiful examples. This is a leaf ant, I think. Not an ant, but I can't recall the name. It starts with leaf because it imitates or it looks like a leaf, and that's a defense mechanism, so predators can find it or can see it when it's standing on a leaf. So this is mimicry. This is another example of mimicry. Butterflies that one day these butterflies open their wings, and then you see these eyes, and these eyes are there to imitate an owl. And by imitating an owl, some other predators will be they're not more like, or they're less like to hunt the butterfly because they think it's a predator bigger than them, but it's just a butterfly. So that's very beautiful, and I think the most common known example of mimicry. And the last one, and also the last thing I want to tell you in this lesson, is the snake caterpillar. So this is a caterpillar, and you see it's got a head. It's not really the head, but it looks like it, like a snake. So here again, it's a defensive behavior. So the caterpillar imitates by mimicry snake. So other predators or predators think, because the caterpillar isn't a predator at all, but the predators think it's a snake, so I can't capture that, and I will go on and find some other food. Okay, what do I want you to do now? Because this is the last slide I want to discuss, and this is everything you have to know for your exam. So this is everything I want to tell you, except for the ethogram we making next week. I want you to learn the contents I told you last lesson in this kind of lesson, and what I told you today. And then I want you to look for some own examples. Look for own examples and try to tell what you see. If you're looking for a mimicry example, use it to give an own example on your GTs or something like that. So next week you need all of these knowledge I gave you in all of my wisdom, of course. So please study it. Don't think she's not here so we don't have to do something with it, because then the lesson next week will be more fun. Okay, I wish you all a beautiful Friday and a nice weekend, and we will see each other next week.